Hey guys, so this is gonna be a quick video. It's something that I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on. So, for those who follow me on DeviantArt, you've probably noticed that I have canceled the Curse of the Black Ink comic, or at least I am not going to continue the comic. Uh, and I will admit, like, I got a lot more support than I expected to get. I was actually very, very happy with the amount of people who were very understanding of why I just didn't want to do the comic anymore. And for those who don't know, the reason I don't want to work on the comic anymore is one, I've just simply lost interest in the comic. I still like Bendy and the Ink Machine as a series and as a game. I still like it. I'm still a fan of it. It's just Curse of the Black Ink was a story that was just putting unnecessary stress on me. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and it was just a story that made me very, very uncomfortable. Like, I don't know, it basically followed the same path as a lot of my other fan comics, where I made it out of excitement for the game and fandom, and then halfway through I realized that I had no idea what I was doing or what I was talking about, and I ended up just writing myself into a wall, and then I just didn't know where to go from there. And Curse of the Black Ink was a thing where I really wanted to try and make it work. I didn't want it to end up like my other fan comics where I ended up canceling them once I left the fandom. Except that's kind of the difference between Curse of the Black Ink and my other fan comics is my like with Some Butts Are Just Gold and Just a Bad Dream, I left the fandoms for those, like, for those comics. Like, I'm no longer in the fandoms of, like, Five Nights at Freddy's and Undertale. I still like the games, I'm just not in the fandom. And Curse of the Black Ink was different because I still am in the fandom, so I felt like I had to make it work somehow. There were people telling me that my comic, like, inspired them, that it, like, got them into the fandom, that they really liked it and stuff, and I felt like I had to continue it for like the sake of the people who wanted to keep seeing it. And so I like tried hard. I tried really, really hard to rewrite the story. I tried to rewrite the characters, remake the comic, but nothing I did felt like it was working. And so I ended up snapping because one or two people told me, because I've been working on some of my original stuff, like Secret Supernatural Society. I kind of snapped when a couple of people told me that they didn't really give a shit about my original stuff, and that they only watched me because they liked my Bendy stuff. And that really, really hurt my feelings, and that just further confirmed my paranoia of, like, people only liking me for my fandom stuff. Which, if you do like me for my fandom stuff, I don't mind. It was just like the people who said this to me were insulting my original stuff and were telling me they just didn't care and that they just wanted me to only post fandom stuff. And so that hurt my feelings, and it just made me more paranoid. It made me further hate my comic, and then I just got to the point where I just canceled it. Now, after canceling it, while I did get support, I did get a few people who didn't react the way they should have. Like, I could understand if people were upset, but the way people acted and what they said to me, it just bothered me. I'm not gonna name any names, but there was one person who got really, really upset, and basically said they didn't understand why I canceled Curse of the Black Ink. They didn't understand why I stopped working on the comic, and they said that they felt like, and while referring to my original stuff, they said they didn't understand why I would stop working on such a great story, and then when referring to my originals, that they'd be like, why would you work on something that no one cares about? And that, again, hurt my feelings, further proved my paranoia about people who watch me. And and from and like I'll admit, in my first journal I was very emotionally driven. I was fed up with the comic, and I could have worded myself better. So in a second journal, I kind of better worded myself. I confirmed with people that I wouldn't be canceling like my Slendy Tubbies comic, because people were concerned about that too. And the Slendy Tubbies comic is different from Some Butts Are Just Gold, Just a Bad Dream, and Curse of the Black Ink. With Slendy Tubbies, I'm not writing my own script for the most part. I'm basically making my own interpretation of the main story in the game. So I'm adapting the story to where it could be a comic, like, like essentially. And when I told people that I for sure wasn't going to cancel it, because I pretty much already have a script for that comic, which is the main story. The same people, or the same person from the previous journal was saying like, yeah, we'll see. Like, they were really upset with me, and I can understand why they were upset with me, but like, and I felt bad, and I tried to message this person. Like, I gave them a couple days to calm down, and I tried messaging them, like, trying to better explain myself for like why I wasn't going to work on the comics anymore. And I explained to them that I just simply lost interest in the story, and it was the same case for Some Butts Are Just Gold and Just a Bad Dream. And the person, for whatever reason, couldn't understand how I could just lose interest in a fandom. Like, for some reason, they could not comprehend that. It didn't make sense to them. And at the end of the day, they just didn't want to see my side of things. And it made me realize just, like, because it made me start thinking back to other artists that I watch who draw fandom-based comics, especially with Five Nights at Freddy's and Undertale and Curse of the Black, or not, Bendy and the Ink Machine. Like when people make fan comics about those, like, and then they get a huge following because of those fan comics and that fan art. Like, it amazes me how quick certain fans of these artists, like, will quickly go to dehumanize them as artists and as people because they stopped drawing for a fandom that they no longer want to be a part of. And it just shocked me, and especially when I saw people, when I canceled Curse of the Black Ink, they referred to other artists saying like, oh, this is so, they were like saying, oh, this is so dumb, like, why are artists always canceling these good fan comics? Like, I don't understand how they just lose interest in these fandoms and stuff. And it really bothered me. Like, it really bothered me that they don't seem to understand how like, that we're people, that we're not just robots drawing fan art all day. Like, we have our own ideas we want to explore. We can end up losing interest in things just like everyone else. It's like, it just bothers me how it's and I'm not the only one this happens to. Like, I'm pretty sure that happened with Rebornica with her Five Nights at Freddy's stuff. Like, people only watched her for her Five Nights at Freddy's stuff. And then when she lost interest in the fandom, like, there were a lot of people that were upset with them. I don't know what Rebornica's pronouns are, and I'm sorry if I just misgendered her. I am so sorry. I have not seen anything from God, I'm not focused at all with Rapornica. I'm so sorry, but and then there's another artist that I watch who goes by the name. I can't remember her name specifically, but she made a comic about Springtrap, and I saw several status posts and journals from her where she was talking about how she was losing interest in Five Nights at Freddy's, and how she was scared to leave the fandom because she knew one of the only reasons people were interested in her artwork was because of her comic, and she knew that if she canceled the comic then she would get backlash, and she explained why she didn't want to be in the fandom anymore, and and she was explaining because she felt like the fandom was becoming very toxic, especially towards her and her interpretation of Springtrap, and I feel like that's a logical reason for not wanting to be part of that fandom anymore, and I can understand why that would cause her to lose interest and lose motivation to work on that comic. But then I'd look in the comment section and there would be people who were just doing the same thing that some of my watchers did when I canceled Curse of the Black King. They were saying they couldn't understand why she lost interest in the fandom. They were telling her that it was stupid for her to lose inspiration, because of stuff like that. It's just okay. All in all, I don't like I understand if you like an artist for their fan stuff. That is perfectly fine, especially if the artist themselves mostly draws fan stuff. But if the artist ends up losing interest in a fandom, or something happens to where the artist just doesn't want anything to do with a certain comic or a certain story, especially if you're not it's not like you're paying the artist to make this comic. It's not like you're commissioning the artist to make this comic. Most of the time these comics are made because the artist is just trying to have fun and wants to make them. It's I feel like you shouldn't throw a temper tantrum if the artist loses interest in a fandom and decides they don't want to draw a comic for it anymore, especially if it's something because it's I don't know, I'm not wording myself well here at all. You guys probably don't understand what I'm going on about, but my point is, don't dehumanize an artist over a comic. Just don't. We're people too. We just want to draw for ourselves. We just want to have fun. Most of the time these comics that we make aren't we don't do them for money or commissions. We're doing them because we just wanted to draw a fun comic based around something that we liked. And if we no longer like that thing, or we're no longer having fun drawing the comic, it's perfectly normal for us to just not want to do it anymore. And I mean, and especially if it's if the artist is doing original stuff and they're making comics and stories based around that, then why don't you go and support that too? Why don't you try to see if that's something you can get into? The artist's original stories and stuff, they need love too. If you really want to help the artist and support them, and you really want to see more stuff from them, then you should support them no matter what they decide to draw. If it's not what you're interested in, or if it's not your cup of tea, then you can then you can feel free to unfollow the artist or unwatch them or whatever. But it's don't go out of your way to pester the artist and get angry at them and tell them that they're being unfair, or that they're being stupid because they decided that they didn't want to work on something that they're no longer interested in. That's just that's unfair to the artist, and it just makes them feel even worse about like what they chose to do with the comic, and overall it's just not good for anybody, and it makes the art, and it especially with people like me who have like anxiety about this kind of stuff, it definitely doesn't make me want to ever do a fan comic again, because I know that if something happened to where I would have to stop working on it, then I know people would treat me like that. They would act like I'm not. I'm only there to please them, and I'm only there to draw fan art for them.